There is a lie that has been whispered into the ears of men for generations, a seduction that promises safety but delivers only servitude. We are told that to be good is to be harmless. We are told that the virtuous man is the one who has no capacity for violence, the one who keeps his head down, the one who never offends, and the one who seeks peace at any cost. But this is a deception. A man who is harmless is not virtuous, he is merely defenseless. A man who cannot cause damage, who cannot disrupt, and who cannot stand his ground when the storm comes, is not a good man. He is a victim in waiting. True virtue, the kind spoken of by the ancient samurai and the warrior monks of old, requires the capacity for dangerous action. It requires that you possess the ability to bring ruin, and the discipline to keep that power sheathed until the moment it is absolutely necessary. To be a warrior in a garden is not a poetic metaphor, it is a prerequisite for a meaningful life. Before we explore the path of becoming dangerous, you must make a commitment to yourself. The road to self-mastery is not for the tourist, it is for the pilgrim. If you seek to reclaim your edge and learn the timeless wisdom of the samurai, subscribe to this channel now. Do not let this moment pass, or you may find yourself lost in the noise of the world once again. Join us, and begin the work. Chapter 1. The Domestication of the Soul. To understand the necessity of becoming dangerous, we must examine the life of Arthur. Arthur was 35 years old, and by all modern metrics, he was a good man. He was a project manager at a logistics firm, a dutiful husband, and a reliable friend. He paid his taxes on time, he never raised his voice, and he apologized when other people bumped into him on the subway. Arthur had constructed his entire identity around the concept of being nice. He believed that if he was accommodating enough, if he was agreeable enough, the world would treat him with kindness. He believed that his harmlessness was a shield. But deep down, in the quiet hours of the night when he stared at the ceiling, Arthur knew the truth. He was not peaceful, he was terrified. His agreeableness was not a choice, it was a survival mechanism born of fear. At work, he allowed his superiors to steal credit for his ideas because he feared the friction of confrontation. In his marriage, he suppressed his own needs and desires to avoid conflict, slowly becoming a shadow in his own home. He felt a low-level hum of anxiety that never ceased, a constant vibration in his nervous system telling him that he was prey. One rainy evening, Arthur was walking home from the train station. He saw two men harassing a young woman near a bus stop. It was not violent yet, but the air was thick with threat. Arthur slowed down. His heart hammered against his ribs. He knew he should step in, he knew he should say something, or simply stand there to be a witness. But his legs wouldn't move. His throat closed up. He looked down at the pavement and walked past, quickening his pace, leaving the woman to her fate. He got home, locked the door, and sank to the floor. He wasn't a good man. He was a coward. And that realization broke something inside him. Chapter 2. The Sword That Gives Life. The samurai lived by a code that seems paradoxical to the modern mind. They were poets, tea masters, and philosophers, yet they carried two swords at their waists, the katana and the wakizashi. This was the daisho. They lived with the constant, heavy reminder of their capacity for death. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman who ever lived, wrote extensively on the way of strategy. He did not teach men to be brutes, he taught them to be capable. There is a concept in Japanese swordsmanship known as Katsujin-ken, the sword that takes life, and Katsujin-ken, the sword that gives life. They are the same blade. The difference lies in the spirit of the wielder. Arthur realized that he possessed neither. He had no sword. He had no capacity to take life, and therefore, he had no capacity to protect it. He began to read the works of the ancients. He read the Hagakure, which states, "The way of the samurai is found in death." This does not mean seeking suicide. It means living with such an acceptance of mortality and such a readiness for violence that one is liberated from the fear of it. Arthur understood that his niceness was simply the camouflage of a rabbit hiding from wolves. He realized that to be truly kind, he had to be capable of stopping cruelty. To be a man of peace, he had to be capable of war. He decided, in that moment of shame on his living room floor, that he would no longer be harmless. He would forge himself into something sharp. Chapter 3: The Cultivation of Iron. The transformation from prey to predator does not happen in the mind alone, it must be forged in the body. You cannot think your way into being dangerous, you must build the vessel. Arthur joined a boxing gym. It was a grimy, dimly lit place that smelled of stale sweat and old leather, a stark contrast to his sterile office environment. For the first month, he was humiliated. He was slow, he was weak, and he flinched every time a punch was thrown in his direction. His ego, which had been protected by his nice guy persona, was stripped away round by round. But something else began to happen. He began to survive. He learned what it felt like to be hit and to keep moving. He learned the mechanics of leverage and force. He realized that the human body is a weapon, and that his body could be a weapon. This physical training was not about becoming a bully, it was about misogi, the ritual purification through hardship. As his shoulders broadened and his hands grew calloused, his posture changed. He stopped walking with his head down. He stopped apologizing for taking up space. This is the principle of hara, the center of gravity in the belly. A dangerous man moves from his center. He is rooted. Arthur began to carry himself with a quiet weight. When he walked into a meeting at work, he didn't scurry to the furthest chair. He sat at the table, placed his hands on the wood, and looked people in the eye. He wasn't aggressive, but he was present. And for the first time, people hesitated before interrupting him. Chapter 4: The Psychology of the Void. Becoming dangerous is 90% psychological. It is about comfortable residency in the void. Musashi wrote about the void as the place where nothing exists, and yet all things are possible. It is a state of mind free from anxiety, free from the desperate need for approval. Arthur had spent his life begging for validation. He smiled when he wasn't happy. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. He agreed with opinions he despised. This is the behavior of a man who fears exclusion. To be dangerous, you must kill the need to be liked. You must be willing to walk alone. Arthur began to practice the art of silence. In the past, he would fill every awkward pause with nervous chatter. Now, he let the silence hang. When his boss made an unreasonable demand, Arthur didn't immediately capitulate. He paused. He looked at the man. He let the discomfort build in the room. He realized that silence is a form of dominance. It signals that you are not frantic, that you are not desperate to please. By becoming comfortable with the tension, Arthur shifted the power dynamic. He saw that most people are terrified of conflict and will do anything to avoid it. By simply being willing to engage in conflict, by being willing to say no and mean it, he became the most powerful person in the room. He was no longer playing the game of social appeasement. He was operating by his own code. Chapter 5: The Shadow and the Light. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the dark, repressed side of the human psyche. He argued that a man who does not integrate his shadow is not whole. He is a fractured being, projecting his darkness onto others. The samurai understood this intuitively. They did not deny their capacity for violence, they ritualized it. They disciplined it. They channeled it into service. Arthur had to face his own shadow. He had to admit that he had anger inside him, that he had resentment, that he had a capacity for cruelty. Instead of suppressing it, he acknowledged it. He brought it into the light of his discipline. He realized that his capacity for danger gave his kindness meaning. One afternoon, a colleague tried to throw Arthur under the bus during a client presentation, a maneuver that would have previously caused Arthur to fold. This time, Arthur felt the cold heat of his shadow. He didn't yell. He didn't lose control. He channeled that aggression into a laser-focused dismantling of his colleague's argument. He spoke with absolute clarity and authority, citing facts, exposing the lie, and asserting his position. It was a verbal execution. The room went silent. The colleague stammered and retreated. After the meeting, Arthur didn't feel guilty. He felt clean. He had used his sword not to bully, but to protect the truth. He understood then that true danger is calm. It is not the barking dog, it is the lion that watches. Chapter 6: The Warrior in the Garden. The ultimate test of a dangerous man is not how he acts in war, but how he lives in peace. The proverb says, "It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." A gardener in a war is useless, he is trampled. But a warrior in a garden is a protector. He tends to the flowers, he appreciates the beauty, he nurtures life. But if a wolf enters the garden, he does not panic. He reaches for the sword he has kept sharp and hidden beneath his robes. Arthur's life began to flourish. His marriage improved because he was no longer a needy dependent, he was a partner with a backbone. His wife respected him because she sensed that he could protect her, not just physically, but emotionally. He could stand firm against the chaos of the world. At work, he was promoted, not because he was the nicest, but because he was the most competent and the most unshakable. He had found Zanshin, the state of relaxed alertness. He moved through the world with his eyes open, aware of the threats but not ruled by them. He was kind, truly kind, because his kindness was a choice made from a position of strength, not a tribute paid from a position of fear. Chapter 7: The Final Precept. The journey to becoming dangerous is unending. It is a constant refinement of the spirit. It requires you to do the things that scare you until they no longer scare you. It requires you to look into the abyss of your own potential for malevolence and bring it under the yoke of your will. Miyamoto Musashi wrote in his final work, The Dokodo, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." The pleasure of the dangerous man is not hedonism, it is the deep, resonant satisfaction of self-mastery. It is the knowledge that you are a force of nature, contained within a human form. Arthur was walking home again, years later. The same street. The same time of night. He saw a commotion ahead. A group of young men were surrounding an older man, their body language aggressive, predatory. The old Arthur would have crossed the street. The new Arthur did not break stride. He walked directly toward the group. He didn't shout. He didn't pull a weapon. He simply walked with the absolute, terrifying confidence of a man who accepts violence as a possibility. He locked eyes with the ringleader. His gaze was flat, dead, and utterly serious. It was the killing stare of the samurai. The ringleader hesitated. He saw something in Arthur's eyes that primal instinct recognized, a predator that was not afraid. The group broke apart. They muttered insults but backed away, melting into the night. Arthur checked on the older man, nodded, and continued his walk home. He didn't brag about it. He didn't post it online. He simply existed as a dangerous man, and in doing so, he created peace. Conclusion: the duty of power. The world does not need more harmless men. It is drowning in them. It is drowning in men who are too weak to stand for anything, too fearful to speak the truth, and too soft to protect what is sacred. The world needs monsters who have learned to control their claws. It needs men who have cultivated the capacity for absolute ruin, and who have chosen, through discipline and love, to use that power to build, to protect, and to serve. You must become dangerous. You must sharpen your mind, harden your body, and integrate your shadow. You must stop apologizing for your existence. When you do this, you will find that the fear that has ruled your life evaporates. You will walk with your head high, not out of arrogance, but out of the quiet knowledge that you can handle whatever the world throws at you. You will be the warrior in the garden. And the garden will be safe because you are there. If you are ready to walk this path, to sharpen your blade and master your spirit, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We will continue to provide the map for the journey. Stand up, be dangerous, and walk in peace.